We saw a lot of exotics get balancing changes this season, as I'm sure you are all aware, but today I wanted to talk about an exotic that's just disappointing, unfortunately. This exotic had some potential to it that was piquing my interest, but after doing some testing, finding the purpose it serves, and comparing it to some other options, I have to say that it unfortunately failed to reach the levels that I would hope it would. Today I wanted to talk about the exotic hunter chess piece, Ophidia Spathe, and explain why I am so disappointed. Hi, I'm SniperKH, and be sure to subscribe for more Destiny 2 content in the future. Alright, so let's first cover what the Ophidia Spathe is and what changes it received with the season. Ophidia Spathe is an exotic hunter chess piece that was initially released back in Warmind, which granted hunters an extra knife charge. Due to the rather uninteresting exotic intrinsic perk, Ophidia Spathe was basically dead on arrival, so naturally Bungie decided to give this exotic a boost. With Season of the Wish, Bungie granted Ophidia Spathe the following buff. Getting a knife kill will now grant a stacking damage buff, with the consecutive knife kills adding an extra stack, maxing out at 3 stacks. Regarding the damage bonus, you get 30% additional damage after 1 kill, 60% on 2 kills, and 100% on 3 kills, with the buff lasting 6 seconds. Additionally, dodging will refresh the timer. After learning about the buffs, I became intrigued, so I put together a build that would help this exotic become stronger. So, how did the testing go? Well, let's talk about it. So, the main thing I wanted to look at was a playstyle that you should adopt with these new changes. I did try seeing the damage this exotic can now do to bosses, and it's nothing to write home about. So if you were intrigued on whether this could be the hunter equivalent of Banner of War, then I have some bad news for you. The main purpose I found for this exotic and the build that I used with it was that it's a fairly decent champion killer. However, even at that job, I find Ophidia Spathe will still struggle at making any notable noise. This build has potential to stun unstoppable champions, with the knives you throw applying Scorch, and after 2 knives will ignite the target you're fighting. But even with that going for it, it still falls apart when going against competition. When comparing it to other melee builds, I chose to compare it to the Arc Hunter build and the Banner of War Titan build, both of which can be found in the description below, and both offer far more than what the Ophidia Spathe build can offer. For Banner of War, it offers a stronger melee that can shred through any target in the game, and is also a big part of what is probably the most broken combination we have this season, which I made a video on. And it also offers a stronger heal and access to near constant damage resistance with that of Woven Mail. When looking at the Arc Hunter build, while it does have a weaker heal in that of Combination Blow, it in return gives you a melee that does way more damage, and also a damage buff that lasts nearly 4 times longer than the Ophidia Spathe buff offers. Due to both of those, I struggle to recommend Ophidia Spathe to anyone, because while it is a fun exotic to run and has a simple and fun combat flow to follow, the reward this exotic gives just isn't enough in comparison to that of the other 2 builds that I compared it to. So now that I've talked about Ophidia Spathe and explained why it's not great, what are some changes that could be made to make this exotic more appealing? Well, I looked at what made this exotic appealing to me, then I looked at what I find holds this exotic back. The thing that is appealing to me about this exotic is the damage bonus you get from it and how it could ultimately make it into a fairly useful exotic. However, regarding the setbacks it has, I find that the timer on the buff is a little too unforgiving, as even though 6 seconds is a fair amount of time, I find that it's difficult to kill enough ads to get the 3 stacks of the buff, then maintain it long enough to actually do what I want to with this build. So my feedback regarding this exotic comes down to the timer and the damage, in which I propose a few changes that could be made. For the first change, I'd love to see the recharge rate of your powered melee be reduced when you have the Ophidia Spathe buff, with the recharge rate becoming a little faster as you gain additional stacks. I'm not asking for the recharge rate to be anything insane, but something that could help build your knives faster so that you could ultimately help this exotic become even more interesting. For my second change, I'd love to see the timer of the buff be increased, maybe to 10 seconds, as it'd give a little more for the player to actually do what they actually want to do when the buff is going. Now, if increasing the timer of the buff isn't something that Bungie would want to do, then increasing the damage that the buff gives could help this exotic be a little more interesting. When comparing Ophidia Spathe to another exotic that increases melee damage on kill and that of Wormgod's Caress, I find it strange that Bungie allows that exotic to build towards a buff that grants 275 additional damage on 5 kills, while Ophidia Spathe can only build towards a buff that caps out at 100% additional damage, which Wormgods can overshadow after just 2 kills. I think regarding the last 2 changes, if Bungie were to implement them into the game, I think only one of those 2 changes would actually need to be implemented to keep the health of the exotic balanced, because while I'd love for this thing to be strong, I believe that adding those last two changes together can make this thing maybe just a little too strong. Overall, while I really want to like Ophidia Spathe, I just can't justify the use of this exotic over other top tier options, especially in in-game content. It does bring some fairly interesting things to the table, but it falls too short for it to actually be worth using over anything notable. So, long story short, don't take your Star Eater Scales, Foe Tracer, Nighthawk, or any other exotic off for Ophidia Spathe because it's just simply not worth it. Well, that'll wrap it up for today's video. If you found it useful, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more Destiny 2 content dropping weekly. If you'd like for me to cover some other topics regarding Destiny, then be sure to drop a comment and I'd be glad to do so. Otherwise, check out my other social media platforms linked in the description below for more content from me. With that being said, I'm SniperKH, and I'm out. Good luck with gaming.